Good evening.
It's good to be back.
It's been a little bit.
Yeah, the Rays lost the World Series since the last time we talked, so it's been tough, but here we are, getting into a big weekend of wrestling with AEW Full Gear pay-per-view, and man, it's really good to be back and having a podcast here with you.
Yes, we have got a good show for everybody. But let's get the show started with a little music. Why don't we?
Agility from the champion. Uh-oh! Oh, deep six! That could be it. Delivers this deep six.
Good evening, episode 45. We are on our way to episode 50 in just a few more episodes. But welcome back, Tom.
Ah, it's nice to be here, man. I've been looking forward to it. Honestly, it's been not a lot of people I can talk wrestling with, so to be able to get on the podcast here and talk with you, it's something I've been looking forward to all day. Let's just say that.
It has been a couple weeks to those of you that are watching. It is been a crazy couple weeks for me personally.
Right there with you.
With a new work schedule, working 12:30 to 9:30, working on Saturdays now. Got bumped in seniority, which I didn't see coming, but. It is what it is. So now I find myself in a position where I need to readjust my life. So whatever I did at night, I have to do in the morning, such as going to the gym. And I made my return back to jiu-jitsu this week for the first time in 17 months.
Heck yeah, man. That's awesome.
For those of you guys that don't know, I tore my Achilles back in early June of 2019. And, man, I got to silence my phone. It's blowing up there. Sorry, guys.
You're popular. They're all excited that the show's returning, man.
But yeah, tore my Achilles in early June of 2019 on the road to recovery. 3 months later, after a couple weeks of walking, I partially tore my Achilles again and then had to go for a second surgery. So, it's been a long road for recovery. And, I just wanted to find the best time to get back to jiu-jitsu. I felt now's the time to get back. I'm weighing 235 when I should be fighting under 200. So I need to cut weight. So I've been hitting the gym every morning, swimming, jiu-jitsu. So and work is in full swing, and all that stuff can take away from the things you want to do. But at the same time, you got to prioritize. You got to take care of yourself first. Podcast will always be here. But anyway, I'm definitely happy to be back on a much needed couple weeks rest to, no pun intended, literally get my footing back as far as schedules go and what have you. Looks like I'm going to have a few Thursdays off this month, which works out perfect. Which works out perfect for the podcast for the near future release.
Yeah,
David Smith, he knows. I did it twice. So that made the recovery process a lot longer than it should have been. But Dave, we are glad that you are watching. Please feel free to share this with your wrestling buddies, and thank you for watching every single week. Tom, how's Back Sports Page going?
It's going good, man. We're getting ready to... Actually, what's funny is the Trifecta also took a little bit of a hiatus the past 2 weeks. We're making our grand return here on Saturday. It's 3 o'clock, so we're really excited about that. And getting some... I'm actually working on the conference call that happened today, some highlights with Cody Rhodes, trying to get some of that posted up here tonight. And then we're going to have... Just had an article about Chris Bay, the Impact wrestler, go up. We had an interview with him. That was a really fun interview. Man, I'm excited. We're going to have a big Full Gear preview, going up on before the show on Saturday. We're going to have my own recap, my favorite moments and hits and misses and stuff like that going up on Sunday. So it's going to be a busy weekend, but I'm going to enjoy it, man. I've been looking forward to this pay-per-view for a lot of reasons, and there's some killer matches on this show. And honestly, I think this is the first pay-per-view I can remember in a while where a lot of the matches, I just don't know who's going to win. There's so many options that you can go with here to where AEW can completely reset and have, so many different titles change, or they could have, guys win and continue their hot streaks. It's going to be a really good pay-per-view. I am fully expecting AEW to maybe put on the best show of the entire year.
Yeah, the lineup has a lot of potential for that for sure. There's no doubt about that. Now, the one thing they need to be a little careful on is the timing of the pay-per-views. That's
Yeah.
the one problem. They need to shorten that, do it 8 to 11. You got your buy-in for about an hour. And then the pay-per-views start at 8 and sometimes go on until near 12 o'clock.
Yeah.
So some people can watch wrestling and take it all in, and some people can't take in that amount of time in one shot. So I've noticed as good as some of the past pay-per-views have been, they do tend to go on a little long.
Exactly.
What do you think?
I totally agree, and that is something that kind of worries me about this pay-per-view is because there's a lot of grudge matches. There's a lot of matches that are going to need the time to, you're going to need some 25-minute, 30-minute matches just because of how deep these rivalries are. Obviously, Omega versus Page is the one that come to mind first, and then you have Kingston versus Moxley for the AEW Championship. Those matches need to be long. They need to have the time to tell a full story. So with the announced card going on here, I'm a little worried for how long it's going to be. I feel like it's going to be a late night for all of us AEW fans, and especially for me having to write my review after. But no, I still think it's going to be a really good pay-per-view. But hopefully, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the pay-per-view won't run too long. But there's just too many matches on this card. At least two that I know of that are going to need some time to be able to tell their whole story for what they've been building up towards.
Yeah, and you know what? And there is quite a number of matches on this card. This is not a 5 match card like NXT. This is like looking at like 8 to 10 matches.
Yeah.
On this Saturday night. I'll be watching. I can't wait. I literally have work like 9:30 to 6:30, and I will be. Well, I might catch the buy-in.
The buy-in.
I might catch that. We'll talk about that match first, but I might catch that. We'll see. But at least I have a little breathing room to get there in front of my TV at 8. So I'm probably going to skip the buy-in just because of the sake of AEW is known for putting on long pay-per-views. But I could always go back and watch it anyway. But yeah, if I'm not mistaken, I think the buy-in is the NWA Women's Championship.
Yeah, that's correct.
Serena Deeb defeating Thunder Rosa on a house show, I heard.
Yes, I'm very certain that our good friend M was not happy with that result there.
I'm surprised they did it. I'm surprised they didn't do it on a national stage. I'm wondering if they have something big planned for Thunder Rosa. If maybe she is going to become All Elite.
Yeah, there's been a lot of rumors about where she is going to end up. Whether that's WWE or in AEW, and I'm interested in what they did here. I really do. I'm really liking the way that Tony Khan and NWA President Billy Corgan are interacting here. It almost seems like we might be getting at some point down the line, kind of like a super show, NWA and AEW. I just feel like they're using the talent well. You're getting people like Serena Deeb, who comes in now. She's won the title, and she's going to put that company basically on the show for the buy-in. And so yeah, I'm really glad that NWA and AEW have a working relationship, and I'm certain that we'll see that working relationship continue to grow over the next few months.
Now, a couple things, not to get a little off track, but during the Cody Rhodes conference call today, there was there was a mention of Nick Aldis and Cody Rhodes saying that basically that won't happen.
Yeah, that's
But
a
that would
tough one.
be some good fantasy booking to see him on AEW TV.
Yeah, that would be great. I kind of like that though, leaving that Nick Aldis Cody Rhodes, you know, rivalry at 2 matches. I think there's sometimes when you can get a little too overexposed. Obviously, Nick Aldis isn't on that national level, but he should be. But not having, 3 matches, we kind of saw it with the Orange Cassidy and Chris Jericho. When you have the same match over and over again, it can get stale, and you don't want to do that. And so I like that. I like having 2 matches, if they ever are in the same company, or if they do have a chance where they have a super show, then you can have that on there. Then you can have that 3rd match. But right now, for what it is, I like Cody Rhodes and Aldis staying at 2 matches. And I'm really excited to see the future of NWA with their working relationship with AEW.
Yeah, Serena Deeb. So we're gonna get Serena Deeb versus defending against Allison Kay, which is fitting to be a pretty good match. I think we got Serena retaining here for sure.
Yeah, I think she just won. I want to say the 27th of October was when she won the last match, or when she beat Thunder Rosa. So I'm thinking here that there's just, if you're going to give her that spot, give her that title, there's just no reason for her to lose it that quick. And she's shown that she can be a force in the ring. So, yeah, I expect her to retain here. But it should be a really good match. AEW has done a pretty good job of having interesting and compelling matches on their buy-in pre-shows. And I think this one is going to continue that.
Orange Cassidy versus John Silver. We saw Orange lay out John Silver the other night. He's the star here. Orange Cassidy, that is. I think I got Orange winning.
I mean, you know who I got winning. He's my favorite wrestler. Of course I'm going to pick Orange Cassidy. This is good. I like John Silver. I don't know if you're a fan of the YouTube series Being the Elite, I think is what it's called. Pretty sure it's what it's called.
Yeah.
John Silver is hilarious on that show. I highly recommend anybody who's watching or listening or will in the future, if you haven't checked out Being the Elite on YouTube, do yourself a favor and do it, because the interactions that John Silver has with the rest of the Dark Order are absolutely hilarious. But yeah, Orange Cassidy's easily going to win this match. I'd bet a good amount of money on Orange Cassidy winning this match.
I bet you M, if he's listening right now, will be rooting for
John Silver. Yeah, exactly.
Matt Hardy versus Sammy Guevara in an elite deletion match. Is there any specific rules to this match? I did not come across any.
I don't think so. Honestly, I think the only thing we know is that it's going to be a cinematic match. Okay. And that's it. At least I'm assuming it would be a cinematic match. If you look at the matches that Hardy has had in his career, the Ultimate Deletion was a cinematic match. I think that's the way it's going to go here, and I'm intrigued about this match because of the way that they ended at All Out. That All Out match was kind of a stinker, thanks to, Hardy's injury that he suffered during the match. It was not as good of a payoff that everybody wanted, and now we're going to have this here. This rivalry has been building for a while. Is this the kind of match that goes on for, it's just a quick 10-minute match, or is this something like we saw with, the Undertaker AJ Styles match, or the Cena Bray Wyatt match, where it's a 15 to 20 minute match where they're getting a chance to tell a story, but it also is going to end their feud. And so I think with that, I think that's kind of the route they have to take. It has to be a match that is given the time to tell a story, but is also allowed to build to the point where they can kind of bring back that heat, but also make up for the fact that their match at All Out just wasn't good, because of the injury. And so I think we're going to see some really cool stuff. I really did enjoy the Ultimate Deletion match that he had back in Impact Wrestling and with his brother. Now we're going to have this. I love Sammy Guevara in the ring. I really don't know who wins this match, though. I'm going to say Sammy because I feel like he almost needs the win and Matt doesn't. But in the same vein, Matt is, this is his match. This is his kind of creative baby. So it's really a toss-up here. AEW has done a really good job of creating a lot of matches here that are hard to predict. But I'm going to go with Guevara here. I think giving him in the inner circle with the matches they have later on in the night, or what I assume would be later on in the night, some much-needed momentum, going forward.
Yeah, I think I have to lean towards Matt Hardy here. Sammy Guevara does need some wins, though.
I think it'll be good, though. I really do think this will be something that people are going to want to see and people are going to talk about. Obviously, that's kind of what happened with the Ultimate Deletion match. Is when it happened, everybody was like, "What did we just see?" I think there's going to be a few cameos from that match that are going to make people smile and go back to that match, but. This is one of those ones I'm just not sure of, and I don't know how long it's going to be, and I don't know what it's going to look like. Obviously, Matt Hardy is a creative genius to where he just kind of does whatever he thinks in his mind, and I'm sure we're going to see some crazy stuff in this match.
Absolutely. Jericho versus MJF. This has been an interesting, somewhat of a slow burn. I mean, this has been going on for 3 months now. Between the two of them, MJF wanting to become part of Inner Circle. That's what's on the line here, folks. If MJF wins this match against Chris Jericho, MJF can join the Inner Circle. But I'm wondering if there is a turn on Jericho.
Who do you think would turn on him?
Could be Inner Circle.
The only reason I don't know if there'd be a turn on the Inner Circle, unless if I can see that, because I could see MJF being the new leader, and I think he could take over as the leader. However, you can't create a turn, in my opinion, on Jericho and kind of kick him out of the Inner Circle, unless if you have somebody who can take up that leadership role. And if it's not MJF who takes up that leadership role, who's it going to be? Because I don't think any of the four that are in the Inner Circle, and this is no disrespect to them, I just don't think that they could be a viable leader of that group. You have Hager, you have Guevara, you have Santana and Ortiz, and that's really it. But if you throw MJF in there and you got another muscle guy and Wardlow following him, now that could be something else. So I like that idea. I don't know if that's what they'll go with. I think I really do think MJF takes the win here. I just think it tells a better story, and I honestly think Wardlow might turn here. Because they haven't really mentioned what's going to happen with Wardlow, if he's just going to join the Inner Circle as well, or if he's just going to kind of continue to just come out with MJF but not be a part of it. It'll be interesting to see.
That's pretty interesting, because you could also have a Wardlow turn on MJF.
Yeah, that's where I'm thinking it's going to go.
And then Wardlow joins Inner Circle.
Now that could be something. I think there's going to be some type of change here to where somebody's going to get screwed over. I'd love to see that MJF versus Wardlow feud. It's going to happen at some point. I don't know if it's going to happen now. But I do think that MJF joins the Inner Circle, especially after what we saw. At the beginning of the show, Jericho was saying that he was soft, that he didn't think that he had the toughness factor that guys like Hager, guys like Ortiz had. He spears him through the little stand-up backdrop that they have behind the commentary team and gives him a few good punches to show that he's ready and he's gonna bring it on Saturday. So I'm gonna give MJF the win here. Don't know how it's gonna play out, but it's gonna be a good one. I think this is gonna be one of the underrated matches. MJF is very, very good in the ring, and Jericho is obviously Chris Jericho. Always be Chris Jericho. He might have not been the same Jericho that we've seen 10 years ago or something like that, but he can still go. He can still put on a good match, and I think this is going to be another one of those good matches.
Now this program that they're doing together, they could also go long-term booking and have Jericho and MJF obviously part of the Inner Circle after MJF gets his win. But then as time goes on, you see dissension. in the
Yeah.
group, like a power struggle, sort of, kind of like what we had back in the day when The Rock first joined Nation of Domination, and
Exactly.
then you had Farouk and The Rock with the power struggle, leaving Farouk
Yeah.
out of the Nation of Domination at a certain point. Then he went off as go to the Alkalites, and The Rock took over Nation Domination, as some of you guys may remember. So I can see something like that happening too, if we're going long term booking here.
Yeah, and it seems like there almost is already some dissension when it comes to MJF joining the Inner Circle. They talked about on Wednesday or last night, that Hager and man, I get them mixed up, and I think it was Ortiz. Hager and Ortiz are cool with MJF joining, and Guevara and Santana are not, which is why they faced MJF, because they wanted him to not even make it to the pay-per-view on Saturday. So I think if you have him join there, you can have that dissension. You can have some kind of like infighting between the group. MJF is the future of the company. We know that. We know how good he is compared, and not compared to Jericho, but Jericho is the future of the company. Jericho's getting to the point where he's winding down his career. So it's tough to call this match, man. It really is. I just don't know where they're going to go with that. And that makes me excited for the pay-per-view, because you know that they can still tell a good story with this match.
Yeah, it's kind of tough to see what story they're going to tell going forward, but I definitely got MJF winning.
Yeah, for sure.
Plus he really rarely ever loses anyway.
And can we talk about that dinner segment that they ran? Oh my gosh, that was just talk about having wrestling fans around the world just go, what was that? That was definitely it. I mean, I remember when I watched that, I was very confused, but it was very enjoyable. Let's just say that. MJF can sing too, by the way, which is kind of surprising.
I have to go back and watch it. I wasn't too sure if that was his real voice or not, and then somebody corrected me and said, "Yeah, that's his real voice."
Just another reason why he's better than you, and everybody knows it, right?
That was definitely a great segment. I enjoyed that. I was like, "What the heck is this going on?" And the steak. They're outdoing each other at the dinner table.
That's so good.
Trying to outdo the other. See, you can, and the steak is getting rarer and rarer and rarer.
Exactly.
Oh man.
Two of the best talkers in the entire professional wrestling business.
Absolutely.
Just going at it. I love this program, and I hope they do continue it in some aspect, and obviously they will, whether he joins the Inner Circle or doesn't. But man, that was something else.
Jericho on commentary is fantastic, by the way.
So good. I hope he does that after. When he retires, he needs to be on commentary. If it's not with AEW, go back to WWE. I don't care. He needs to be on commentary.
So this match definitely has an interesting dynamic too, because you kind of have two heels basically going at it.
Yeah.
In this match, Chris Jericho might be working as the good guy here, the tweener, and MJF probably is the heel. That's how I think I see it this Saturday night for sure. AEW Women's Championship, Sheeta versus Nyla Rose. There hasn't been much build to this.
No, and that's something that Cody kind of talked about here on the conference call today. Just the fact that there hasn't been a lot of build, but I still think this is a match that is going to deliver, not can deliver, is going to deliver. I mean, Sheeta has been so good as a champion, and Nyla Rose, we obviously have seen her as champion, and she's been on a hot streak. I think they ran something on Dynamite, the little card that goes over the name. I think she has been the number one contender for like 17 weeks or something like that, or at least number one in the rankings. While there hasn't been a good build, I still think this match is going to deliver. I got Nyla Rose taking the title here. I think she has done a really good job. Pairing her with Vicky, I think, just gives her another element. She doesn't have to be on the mic. She has somebody who is fantastic on the mic and is playing that annoying heel that she's always been. I just think now's the time to have Sheeta take the loss, and then if you want, you can have, whenever Riho can come back here, she can get her win back against Nyla Rose, take the title off her, and then you can do Sheeta versus I just said her name, and she's
Riho.
Riho, yes. Shida versus Riho. I think that match sells itself. That's going to be a fantastic match whenever it happens. But that's the way I see it going down. I think Nyla takes the championship here and begins her second reign as AEW Women's Champion.
What happens if, in fact, that we do get Thunder Rosa as All Elite? Do you see her getting the title match against either Sheeta or Nyla Rose?
I could see her getting a title match. My only gripe is that I feel like it always comes down to a one-on-one match. We need to start seeing some more, triple threat women's championship matches or a fatal four-way. I want to see more people involved. I want to see more people gunning for the title. It's, something that we've talked about on the show is how their women's division, honestly, in both companies isn't very good, but AEW hasn't done the best job, and even when it comes to this program, of building their women's division and making their matches seem important compared to the other matches on the card. Not that this match isn't important, because obviously it is. It's for a championship, and it's to the best, women wrestlers in the business. But this is something that you want to build for. You want to have people invested in your women's division. You want to show why you have the best women's division. And so I think if they can get Thunder Rosa, you have Serena Deeb here. You have
Britt Baker making her comeback.
Britt Baker's coming back. You have
Penelope Ford.
Penelope Ford. They have good people. They have good wrestlers here. But they just got to use them more. They have to have more people gunning for the title instead of just kind of floating around on dark.
And you also, who's that other girl that got hurt a little while back? Statlander.
Yes, Chris Statlander, yeah.
The alien. So I would expect her back probably by the end of this year or early, first part, beginning part of 2021.
Yeah.
Which isn't that far away.
Don't remind me. Well, actually, yes, remind me, because 2020 has definitely been a tough one.
Goodness,
we're almost done
this year. Oh my gosh, it's nuts. AEW #1 contender match: Kenny Omega versus Hangman. This has been one of AEW's main storylines for, I would say, the past year, ever since they opened up AEW. And the writing was on the wall with the tournament that they had announced a couple of weeks back. And you saw Kenny Omega on one side with the jabronis there. I hate to say it. Then you had Hangman on the other side of the bracket with Cole Cabana and Wardlow on that side of the bracket. So you knew Hangman was winning out of those four. And you knew Kenny Omega was going to win out of his side of the bracket. And now they finally meet this Saturday. A winner is the #1 contender for Jon Moxley's World Championship, or Eddie Kingston's, which we'll get to in a little bit, if that happens. But who do you got here? How do you think this plays out?
This is tough, man, because I love Hangman, and that's my nickname on this show is Hangman Tommy Smith. I gotta go with Kenny, man. Kenny is one of my favorite wrestlers. He's one of the only wrestling shirts that I own. I own his old cleaner shirt from New Japan. He's got to win here, man. He's got to have a run at the top. He's kind of been pushed to the back, which is kind of funny. Him, Cody, and the Young Bucks are kind of the behind-the-scenes guys when it comes to help starting this company and being the top guys. And he's been the only one who's really kind of been pushed to the side, not really gotten that chance to get to the top. Obviously, he won the tag team championship, but this story has been so good. We all knew it was going to happen, like you said. When they released this tournament, everybody knew it was, and they've even mentioned it on the fact of, I think it was on Dynamite when they did the 2 interviews. They talked about, how both knew that this was going to happen, that they were going to end up in the finals. And this is going to be a barn burner of a match. This is going to be a hell of a match. This is going to be the match that needs to go 20, 25 minutes, but Omega's got to win. Omega has to have a chance at the title. He's turning heel now. We kind of see him with the, ladies come out with the brooms and everything, and they're
Jaguar
dancing.
cheerleaders.
Yeah, exactly. I hate that I'm saying this because I love Hangman so much, and I love his character, but Kenny gets the win here, and I am 99% certain of that he gets the win and that he goes on to become the new champion, whenever he has that match in the future.
This is a tough one to call, but I
Another
think
tough one.
Kenny gets the win. But I think there could be more of a story to tell afterwards. See, I think M may have called it a couple months ago how quite possibly we see Hangman maybe go down a dark road. It kind of teased that the other night, but then they got along in the ring
Yeah.
later on. It's as if they patched it up, and he came into the Young Bucks save. So I'm not too sure where they're going here. I feel like we could get an official heel turn with maybe Kenny getting the win, and then maybe turning on Hangman or Hangman turning on the other, because we really truly haven't seen that yet.
Yeah, we haven't seen Omega get that run as a full heel, that cleaner spot that he had in New Japan, and I just think now's the time to do it. I think he does better as a heel. There are wrestlers in this business who are just better bad guys. That's just how it is, and I think Omega is one of those guys, and he's the kind of guy who we've talked about a lot of who's that guy who can beat Moxley, and I will hold off on my pick for that match because it might be a little surprising to some, hint, hint. But I think if that doesn't happen, Omega is the guy who can not only be a viable competitor to Moxley and be a big name for Moxley, but the kind of guy that can beat Moxley and do it in a fashion that makes you believe that he can be a hell of a champion and lead this company.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And Dave with another comment. He had a couple with why Nyla Rose getting a title shot. And I said, well, listen, Dave, in time that will happen. And they probably will sign Allison Kay for sure. I think Kenny very well could be the guy to beat Moxley. But let's pump our brakes on that for a moment. It's very, very, very possible. But I got Kenny Omega versus Hangman, but I feel like there might be a little more of a story to tell after this for sure.
Yeah, there's got to be some more advancement of the story just for how long they've been building this story. There has to be something else after this match, and I'm excited to see that. I wonder if that little hint of maybe the Elite is coming back together that they had on Dynamite, maybe that'll lead to something else. We'll see. But yeah, I totally agree with you. I think there's some continuation of this story after Saturday's pay-per-view.
Speaking of Hangman, your boy is right over
my man
there.
right there.
Interview with JR with
he's nervous.
Drinking the Irish whiskey. He's nervous.
Yeah,
he's very nervous.
He's nervous.
Oh boy. AEW TNT title. Does Darby Allin finally get that big win against Cody this Saturday night?
Yes. Yes, he does. I think when Cody beat... Man, who was the TNT champion before?
Brody,
that's right, man. I feel like I've kind of taken a step back from the wrestling world since we haven't done the podcast, but... Yeah, he beat Brody in that dog collar match, a hell of a match. I mean, that's one of my favorite matches of the entire year. When he did that, it almost kind of told me, and won the title for the second time, it told me that, especially with having the matches with Orange Cassidy, he's going to lose this title here in some capacity, in some short order. I just don't see the point of him holding it. I understand, you could bring back the open challenge again and all that stuff, but... he needs to be in another feud, and so I think with this, we're going to see Brody Lee come back, cost Cody the match, and Darby's going to be the guy who is holding on to the TNT title. I think Darby is fantastic. His character, they're kind of... he reminds me a little bit, maybe it's just because of what AEW has done, especially with what happened on Dynamite, up in the rafters shot. He reminds me of kind of like that Sting vigilante character, and I love it. I didn't get to grow up in that time, but I got to see it in my years of being a wrestling fan, thanks to, WWE Network and all that stuff. And I really do think Darby is a fantastic competitor, and I think he's going to be the guy who takes the title off Cody here.
I think Darby finally gets over that hump. He's had a couple tries at Cody already. Came up just short twice. I think Darby gets the title somehow, some way. Imagine if Darby were to join Dark Order. I think that could be a possibility here.
Yes, I did not think about that.
Or the other possibility too is Darby wins and they just continue the program with him against Ricky Starks, and this time they'll be feuding over the title.
And I think that is the best possible way because of kind of what we saw again, going back to what happened on Dynamite. Team Taz came out and I can't tell if it was a shoot promo or not. Taz is such a good promo. He's such a good listen to. He's hilarious on commentary. I don't know if you catch Dark or sometimes. He is hilarious. He has said some stupid stuff that is, and he knows it too, and he laughs about it.
If he keeps his heel persona I on commentary, I like it.
He does.
I was never a fan of him on commentary in SmackDown, though.
I wasn't either, but this time, he's given Tony Schiavone crap, and it's just such an enjoyable. It makes Dark more enjoyable to watch. But I think what you have here is you can have Brody interfere because they have to continue that story. I think that is the kind of match when you have the squash match that he beat Cody for the title, then you have the dog collar match and what was absolutely brutal. That's the kind of match where you can do. That's the kind of rivalry where you can do 3 matches or 4 matches. Just continue that rivalry. Now you have Team Taz saying, "We're going to make an appearance. You won't put us in matches. We're going to make an appearance on the show." This is the match I could see them getting involved in. Maybe that's after the match. A post-match beatdown of Darby. I like that. I like seeing. And obviously, honestly, I could see Ricky Starks taking the title off of Darby in a little while, and making Team Taz that much more valuable of a commodity. With 2 titles, obviously the FTW title it doesn't really mean much, but I really do. I like that. I like that idea of having Team Taz get involved in this match, but I still think that Darby takes the win here.
Yeah, I think we could both agree on that for sure. AEW Tag Team Titles match: FTR defending against the Young Bucks. So this is a match that a lot of people have been waiting for. Do you think they arrived to this match a little too quick, or what do you think?
Yes and no, and I'll explain why. I think that when you look at it, we've known that these 2 teams are if not the 2 of the best tag teams in all of professional wrestling. I mean, these guys, the Young Bucks were number 1 tag team wrestling for years for a reason. They can put on a show. And FTR, obviously, thanks to their time in WWE, flew up those rankings. When you get to a match like this, when you have a match that is just this talked about, this is something that's been built for years, you run the risk of it not living up to expectations, and you run the risk of just not having the kind of match that that these 2 teams should have. But in the same vein, I mean, who is FTR going to go against that can give them that can be a viable competitor and have somebody? They've held the titles for a pretty decent amount of time, and now you have the Young Bucks who are putting on this stipulation that if they don't win, they won't challenge for the tag team titles ever again. And with that, I think it just makes this match that much more meaningful. And we've seen FTR put on some 15 to 20 minute matches, and I think that's what's going to happen here. I think this match has a good story. This is another one of those matches that should be given the amount of time to completely tell their story. But with the recent news of Matt Jackson's injury, I think they said it's like torn MCL and a slightly torn ACL or something like that. I'm still gonna pick the Bucks here, honestly. I still think the Bucks are the team to beat them because I just don't know who could step up and beat FTR at this point. And I think that this is a storyline that you can continue after this match, kind of have a we want our rematch type thing. I just don't see a team right now that could beat FTR that isn't the Young Bucks, so that's why I'm going to pick them even with Matt's injury. I think they can kind of hold off on a rematch, somewhere down the line. But yeah, I'm going to pick a Young Bucks here.
I think the only thing that makes me go with Young Bucks is because of the stipulation. They will forever be tethered as a tag team.
Yeah.
We know that. So I don't see them losing this one, although they could drop it quick on a future Dynamite.
Honestly, they could lose it on Wednesday. They could lose it right
Yeah.
back.
But lose it right back, and then that's how you get around that stipulation, and then Matt Jackson can heal up for a little bit.
Yeah, it's just having Cody's did the same thing with the World Championship. He said, if I don't beat Jericho, I'm not going to challenge for it, and he's held to that. And so I think if you have the Young Bucks do that, if they don't win, like you said, they're tied together as a tag team. Nobody is really going to buy, and this is not a knock on them, they're just that much better as a tag team. Nobody's going to buy Matt and Nick Jackson as singles competitors. They work so much better as a tag team, They're brothers for a reason, They're just so good. And so, like you said, with that added stipulation, I just don't see them losing this match, and I think that there's a workaround or something, they can vacate the titles after, something like that. Obviously, that'd kind of be a little cheap, but there's something that they can do to get around the stipulation to allow Matt Jackson some time to heal.
And you know what? You could also, if they did, win it and then drop the titles, which, you can go that route. You could have a tag team tournament. You could have a tag team tournament leading to another pay-per-view. So this way, you're making every tag team match more meaningful.
Yeah, that's honestly AEW has done such a good job with tournaments. We've already seen a tag team tournament, at the beginning of the year or at the beginning of AEW. Now we have a new one. Like you said, we could have a new one here to crown a new tournament to crown a new champion, if they did decide to vacate those titles. So yeah, I like that idea. AEW has done a fantastic job with their tournaments in the past, and they have a wealth of tag team talent. They put it on display every week for a reason. And that's the time where you can really build up a new tag team, because that's what we're all about, is we're building up new stars, and that's what they could do here with that. Because if FTR was to regain those titles, you need to have viable competitors that can be believed to take those titles off of them, like you have with the Young Bucks. And like you had with Hangman Page and Kenny Omega when they challenged for them. Obviously they didn't win, but then they lost the titles. But you could believe, nobody would bat an eye if they had beaten FTR and regained the belts, because they were that good as a team.
It's going to be very interesting to see what happens there as well this Saturday night. A tough one to call. I think I have to go Young Bucks here.
Me as well.
Yeah.
I feel like we're sharing a lot of the same picks here, even though we both said how tough this was going to be to call.
Yeah. AEW Championship, Eddie Kingston versus Jon Moxley.
So excited.
Moxley's had that title for I want to say 8 months now.
Yeah, I think they ran the graphic. It said like 249 days or something like that. So yeah, that'd be 8 months.
Yeah, we're talking about 8 months. You think his time is up?
Yes, I do, and I am so excited for this match. I have said on numerous occasions on this show that Eddie Kingston is the best mic worker in the entire wrestling business. Better than Jericho, better than MJF, whoever you want to put out there.
Ooh.
He has earned this spot.
He's good.
Yeah, he is, and he has earned this main event spot. He's earned this championship match. Man, that face-to-face confrontation that they had on Dynamite was so well done. I mean, getting in the face, he's right there. His nose is on Moxley's eyes. I mean, Moxley brings up his mom and how he's going to be a disappointment to his mom, That is so good. I know this match is going to be brutal as hell. I've talked a lot about how AEW is really brutal sometimes, with the coffin or the body bag with the thumbtacks that they did with Darby Allin. There's just been a lot of brutal spots. And I think knowing Jon Moxley's past, that's going to continue here. And obviously it's an I Quit match, the first in AEW history. This is going to be a hell of a match, a hell of a main event. It's Eddie Kingston's time. I think Moxley still has, some unfinished business with Pac, and I think kind of what we saw with Pac coming back, his promos have been fantastic since whoever makes those promos, those vignettes, by the way, that's a hell of a job, with the little, different versions of him screaming and stuff. I love it. But yeah, I think Eddie Kingston gets the payoff that he deserves of 18 years in the wrestling business. He's going to win the title here in what I think will be the best match of the entire night.
This is a tough one to call. I'm leaning towards Eddie too as well.
Copying all my picks, man.
Yeah, I gotta. I mean, the only thing that, the only reason why if Eddie doesn't win is probably because they may go the Moxley Omega route. They could very well have that planned. But otherwise, I think I gotta go Eddie Kingston.
Yeah.
It'll be something fresh.
Yeah, and that's the thing is he can. How do I want to put this? I like the idea of Omega and Moxley. I think that would be a great match. I think if not Kingston, that's where Omega takes the title. But I still think even if Omega, wins on Saturday, I think they can hold off a while for that championship match. I think you're going to have a rematch between Kingston and Moxley if Kingston takes the title. And then you can have that match between Kingston and Omega and have Omega take that title. So you give Kingston a little bit of a run. You let him have that big victory that he deserves on a pay-per-view in a main event spot, get that title, and then he gets his rematch, beats Moxley again. I don't know what kind of stipulation they do for that one. It's got to be something even bigger, maybe a cell-type match or something like that. And then you have Omega take that title and start his reign at the top of the company.
Yeah, it's going to be... they got to be careful that it doesn't get too convoluted, in the main title scene. I mean, I could see Eddie Kingston winning, and then maybe a couple months going to Kenny Omega, but then that would make Eddie Kingston the transitional champion.
Yeah, which you don't want to do.
So I'm not too sure if they want to do that either. The cleanest route, the one that makes more sense is probably, and I still got Eddie Kingston, but now that I'm thinking about it and talking about it, the route that they probably will go, if Eddie Kingston doesn't get that win, is Moxley Omega, and that's probably been planned for several months now.
Yeah. See, I agree with that, and I understand what you mean by that, but I just think the meteoric rise that Kingston has had since he has joined AEW. I mean, he had that match against Cody for the title when he first came in, and he has been just so good, man. I mean, he is must-watch TV
and
every time he gets on. He's got a stable. He can give that stable some...
He's got the bunny?
Yeah, I just think he can give that stable some added credibility if he wins this title. And honestly, what you could do, something that WWE does a lot is not have... Obviously, Survivor Series is coming up, and they have a champion versus champion match with Reigns and Orton. I think what you can do is kind of have, if this is the time that you want to run that blood and guts match, you can have his stable versus the Inner Circle in that match. Give time for Moxley to sell his injuries in this I Quit match. Have Moxley come back during that match and set up the rematch. Then you have, your Kenny Omega versus whoever wins that match. Or I would assume Kingston would win. Because like you said, you don't want to have a transitional champion. You don't want to make him just seem like we just gave it to him out of the blue. You want to make him seem like he's they had a reason for giving him that title. And so I think that's the way they do it. Is they have kind of like a match where the title isn't defended. Moxley comes back, gets his rematch, loses, and then you have Omega get that number one contenders match, and he ends up taking the title.
Yeah, it's probably exactly what's going to happen. What's the next pay-per-view at the Full Gear?
I am not sure. Let me look.
I feel like this is January or February pay-per-view coming.
Yeah, I know that they've talked about this blood and guts match, and obviously with COVID happening, they weren't able to do it because they wanted to do it in front of fans. Now I think they mentioned somewhere north of 1,000 fans would be available at Daly's, or would be there at Daly's place on Saturday. So you're slowly increasing that number of fans that you can have at the events, and as we've talked about, fans do make a difference. It does give it that added vibe in the arena, and you can feel the emotion from the crowd, and even just having the crowd sing Judas when Jericho comes out, it's just cool. It's good to hear that stuff. Good to see fans in the arena, but I think now is the time, if you want to, you pull off that blood and guts pay-per-view match, or however, if it's a pay-per-view or whatever, and you have that be your January, February pay-per-view for what happens next.
February of this year was Revolution, so I would expect another Revolution pay-per-view coming up in a couple months.
Revolution was really good this year. I remember watching that one.
Yeah, it's 3 months away from that.
Yeah, and well, when was All Out was
All Out
September.
was September, and then in between, smack in the middle of that, it was Double or Nothing.
Well, Double or Nothing was before that, I thought.
May 23rd.
Yeah, okay. So you had Revolution, then so you have about a 3-month break. Then you have a 2-month break between Double or Nothing and All Out, and a 2-month break between Full Gear. So I think that gives you time to. I wonder if they'll run some kind of like special show. They've been doing those little like special
In the summertime.
Dynamite. Yeah, the special Dynamite episodes. We saw
they did that.
Fight for the Fallen, and we saw Fighter Fest. I think that's something that you could do, is have kind of like around Christmas time, a special show just to kind of end the year, and that's where you could have that match, and then you have the rematch at Revolution, and then at Double or Nothing, which is obviously All Out. No, it is Double or Nothing. Sorry, at Double or Nothing, which is kind of their WrestleMania. You can have that big match, that big Omega match where he gets the title, and of course, nobody knows what's going to happen, but maybe at that point, more and more fans are allowed back in, and we can get closer to everything, resuming back to what it was back in February. And I think that's the time where you can pull off that big title change, that big, give Omega that big heel run in front of a large crowd of fans. So yeah, I could see them doing that, as have kind of a special episode of Dynamite or 2 episodes of Dynamite in around Christmas time, and then build towards the Revolution pay-per-view. If they continue to do Revolution, obviously they're entering their 2nd year as a company, so
yeah, I think they're gonna stick with the every 3-month format for now until further notice. Oh, I heard that quite possibly there's another show coming.
Yes,
With no full details yet, but it's like a definite a new show that not like a 3rd hour Dynamite, but I guess an hour for another show live on TV.
kind of like kind of like how Thunder was, how WC Thunder was that extra hour for Nitro. Obviously, it wasn't Thunder wasn't anything special, and I think they want to do something different. Is have it to where that 3rd hour on TNT or TBS, whatever they decide to put it on. They have impactful things happening on that show. And so Cody talked about it in his conference call today, is that they don't have any details to share, but it won't be Dark. Dark will be its own thing, but there will be a new show on the TNT family of networks, or on TNT in the coming future that will have, major implications to the roster, I guess. Instead of just having Thunder as kind of like your B show, it'll be let's say a B plus show. It won't be what Dynamite is, but it'll still be an important show. I think honestly you can almost compare it to what SmackDown is to Raw. Obviously we've talked about how SmackDown has been better than Raw recently, but SmackDown is still, I don't know, honestly. It'll be that second show that'll still be impactful and it'll give the rest of the roster a chance to shine, give more people time on
For some
screen.
reason, like, SmackDown will always have that B show aura.
Yeah.
But SmackDown has just been so much better than Raw on a weekly basis. I didn't watch this past week's Raw. I did hear that Lana got thrown through a table for a 7th straight week.
7. I mean,
man, she's getting punished.
What is going on?
She's getting punished because Miro's on TV.
Miro. Honestly, that's somebody who I was kind of surprised that there isn't a match for. I wonder if they'll add another match between now and Saturday where, there'll be a, maybe it's on the buy-in. Maybe it's best friends versus...
Yes, Miro
and Kip. I think that's the kind of match...
I think that's happening. I actually got the whole card from CBS Sports, so I didn't see it there, but that's probably happening.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if that's something that's on the, the buy-in. I think that's something that can be, a quick little 10-minute match. Then you have another 10 to 15-minute match in the NWA title, and then you have the extra 20 or 30 to 40 minutes of building up and reminding people, hey, buy the pay-per-view. Here's the storylines that are going on. Your normal pre-show stuff, but. I think that's a match that we could see. But yes, seeing Lana get put through a table is interestingly weird. That's the best way I can say it. It's funny, but it's just like, okay, like after like 2 weeks, we get it. Like you don't like her because she's married to Miro. So let's just put her through a table for almost 2 full months. She has been put through a table. I mean, that's
they might
ridiculous.
Do this until the end of her contract.
And what's funny is I know Vince McMahon is laughing his ass off in the back every time it happens. He thinks it's hilarious, and that's...
They're gonna have to switch up the tables. It's within the commentary
table
for like 7.
Exactly.
They're gonna have to switch up the tables. Maybe do something on the ramp or to keep it going, because otherwise it's gonna get stale after a while. We got a couple moments left. Let's talk a little WWE. So Randy Orton finally the WWE champion. I could have sworn that they were gonna do that title change. We've been talking about this for months. We kind of figured that Drew was losing the title around this time of the year. I thought it was going to be the ambulance match. This way, Drew didn't have to take a pinfall. But apparently,
agreed on.
Yeah, apparently, they needed to sell toys. They needed to sell ambulance trucks to WWE toys through Jax or whatever brand they're using now. So they needed to sell toys because I saw the commercial, I saw the proof. They had the ambulance truck and the wrestling figures and whatever. So that was the whole purpose of that match, was just to sell toys. And then you finally get the Hell in a Cell. And he takes a pinfall and loses. Randy Orton's your new title holder, and rumor has it that Edge could be an upcoming contender. That's been talked about on and off for the past several months now. Honestly, not in agreement with it. I think Drew should leave the Drew Randy Orton program alone for now. Let Randy Orton do his thing with the Fiend, and then Drew get a title match down the road by WrestleMania.
Yeah, I understand the need for a feud ender, especially with Edge's injury that he suffered at Backlash. I understand the need for a third match, but it does not need to be for the title, and I don't understand why, because Edge does not need to have that title. Edge has to win that match, and he will win that match whenever it happens, but he does not need to be the leader of the locker room. He does not need to be a title holder. He has that name brand. I mean, go back and watch the Royal Rumble from this year. If anybody who's watching this hasn't seen it, and I'm sure you have, Go and watch that. I mean, the reaction that he gets, the reaction that he has on his face is storybook. I mean, the dude is like, I finally did it, man. Like, I cannot believe this is actually happening. I've been gone for so long, 9 years, and I'm able to make my return. People still remember me. People still pop for me. But he doesn't need to be the title holder, man. It needs to be a guy like Drew. It needs to be a guy like Big E. You know, it just, I don't know. I mean, is that where Miz uses the Money in the Bank? Is he takes the title off of Edge? I mean, like, what are we back in 2009? Like, I really don't understand why that's still the plan. It can happen at WrestleMania, but it doesn't need to happen for the title.
Yeah. I'm not too sure why we're seeing stuff from 2009, 2010.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
I go back to what WrestleMania did we 36, 35. It was Triple H and Batista. That was a grudge match, and it didn't have any titles. It was just two dudes who have had a rivalry for what Evolution started in 03. So at the time, 16 years. You know, they've been involved with each other for 16 years, and they told a good story. Edge and Orton have been a team since, I want to say, I could be wrong on this, but anywhere from 05 to 07, I don't exactly remember, but they've been involved with each other for 15 years, you know, at a point, and you can tell that story without having a title. If you want to build up new stars, we saw the rise of Kofi Kingston. We saw how good, you know, even Daniel Bryan was as a heel champion. We see how Drew's done, you know, talking about 2009. I mean, look at where he was in 2009. You know, he was the chosen one, and now he was the dominant champion. You have The Fiend. You have guys who are getting the opportunities and are making the most of them. Even Reigns with his new heel turn. I just don't understand why we have to keep going to the past and having guys like Orton and Edge. Orton's fine, but Edge does not need to win the title. It does not make sense to me.
It doesn't. It really doesn't. Dave says, I think AJ should win the Royal Rumble. We'll see. I don't know what the long-term plans are.
Yeah, I'm wondering
AJ
what they're
would
doing with
probably
AJ.
have to turn face. I don't see that happening.
You don't think a heel AJ could win the?
I'm not even gonna say a heel Randy. I just don't think they would do that. One of them would have to turn.
That's fair.
Yeah, it would have made sense if you had AJ feuding with Drew McIntyre. It had Drew McIntyre held the title through Hell in a Cell. That could have been a good route. I'm just not sure how you do that right now.
Yeah, I mean, they did do a heel versus heel championship match when Orton won the Rumble. You know, when he faced Wyatt, they were both kind of heels, and then he turned on the road to WrestleMania. So I think that's something you could do. I just right now, if I had to be a betting man, I'd say that Big E is my choice.
Yeah. I think Big E is going to be the one to win a Rumble this year and face Roman Reigns at WrestleMania, unless they have plans for
The Rock
Reigns versus The Rock, which ideally that's what they want to go to, but I don't know if they'll do that without fans.
Yeah, and that's the thing is there's so much uncertainty in everything in the world, and especially in the wrestling business, is that we just don't know. I mean, we really do not know what it's going to look like in the next, let's say, 5 months. There could be full fans at the arena. There could
be in the middle of another lockdown.
Yeah, exactly. You know, or we could still be in the meeting. Like I said, you know, AEW's having 1,000 fans at the pay-per-view on Saturday. Maybe it's bumped up to 5,000 or something.
I think they could put more in a building.
Yeah, I agree.
Put more in a building. Because there's so much space in Daly's place that they're not even using right now.
I mean, the Cowboys are getting 20,000 fans, and
yeah,
I mean, come on, there's got to be something there. So yeah, I agree with you. I really don't know. But if I like AJ as a Royal Rumble winner, I think he could be somebody who gets the opportunity to win that. But right now, if I had to pick, it's got to be Big E. I mean, if it's not The Rock, it's got to be Big E, because I just don't see anybody else winning it that has a fair chance to, you know. But knowing WWE, you know, somebody like Dominic's going to win it or something. Gosh, what a main event that would
Oh.
be. Dominic versus Randy.
What do you think of the Sasha Bailey program?
Too soon,
I
man.
think they rushed it a little bit towards the
Too
end.
soon.
Yeah.
Great match.
Because see,
Great
the thing
match.
is, they could have had Sasha go to Raw and keep them separated for a while,
Yeah.
and then Sasha could have went off the rhetoric. Well, you know what? I know I'm not on the SmackDown brand anymore, but rest assured, Bailey, I will get to you eventually. When I do, I'm taking that belt.
Yeah.
They could have done that and maybe had Sasha Banks win the women's Royal Rumble this January, and then there you go. You got Sasha and Bailey on the grand stage. But you know what? I think Tommy, all it boils down to is they probably just didn't have anything good enough to put out there for the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view that took place. So I guess maybe that they felt they were in a position, well, we need a good match to put forth with the women. So let's do Sasha Bailey.
And
But
that's
they
the thing.
could have easily dragged it out more,
Yeah.
for sure.
They just don't have, and again, we talked about it with AEW. They just really don't have a good women's roster that they've built up. Not that they don't have a good roster, because they do. They have a lot of good talent on there. They haven't built their talent up very well. You kind of have the same 5 names at the top. I mean,
Yeah.
Sasha, Bailey, Becky, Charlotte, and Ronda, and 3 of them aren't here right now. So you kind of have to rush something. It was a hell of a match. I mean, their Hell in a Cell match was fantastic. Honestly, all 3 of the Hell in a Cell matches, which I did not expect to happen. I thought one of them would be kind of boring. They all 3 told very different stories.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I thought they were all really well done. But yeah, that was a good one. They rushed it, and I think they know that they rushed it. But like you said, they didn't have another option. I mean, who's going to step up and fight Bailey, while Banks was, on Raw? Obviously, they could have let Banks continue to sell her injuries and win, like you said, win the Women's Royal Rumble. But, they decide to go here and now and do that. And I'm sure we'll see a rematch down the line. But, I mean, like I said on our last show, this is the kind of match that sells tickets, sells pay-per-view buys and does all that stuff. This is a moneymaker, and it should be on the big stage, and they would deliver on the big stage like they have in their, in the Hell in a Cell and at NXT TakeOver and all that stuff. This was a WrestleMania match that should have happened, and I think that's going to go down as, if they don't continue to somehow get to that point to where it is still a WrestleMania match, this is going to go down as one of the biggest missed opportunities in WrestleMania history.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a missed opportunity as of now for not having Sasha Bailey main event. But I mean, listen, WrestleMania is what are we? December, January, February, March. 4.5 months away from WrestleMania. 37 supposedly supposed to be in Tampa Bay. Try that again.
Yeah.
But there'll be fans this time. How many fans? Who knows? But
5 fans.
Yeah.
Just 5.
Anything could happen at this point. And you know the way WWE produces, they do an excellent job producing. They'll make a quarter of a stadium look like a full stadium. So
It's going to be, the 5 fans are going to be Shane McMahon's kids, Linda McMahon, Stephanie McMahon, and former tag team champion Nicholas.
yes, and Stephanie's kids too.
Yeah, it's Stephanie and Hunter's kids.
They'll be there. Well, that pretty much wraps up our talk tonight. Yeah, AEW Full Gear this Saturday night. I will be watching intently. Hopefully, it's not a long night. I feel like 3 hours is a good sweet spot for the type of card that they have. But we'll see. We'll see how it pans out. And guys, you'll hear us talking about it not too long after Saturday. Our thoughts about the pay-per-view, and it's definitely gonna be a lot to talk about there. So we'll definitely do that. But Tommy, thank you so much for hopping on.
Thanks for having me, man. Good to be back.
Yeah, it's been a couple weeks, but we're ready to get some more shows at you. That wraps up episode 45. Make sure you subscribe to our Deep Six Pro Wrestling podcast on YouTube. Share it with your friends. Follow us on Twitter so you can get all the announcements of when we're doing our shows. And you can also listen to us on iTunes, Google, Podcast, Spotify, and more. Also, www.backsportspage.com for all the sports news. You can catch Tommy's review of the AEW pay-per-view on that website. And so be sure you follow that too. And you can also get our content from there as well. That's backsportspage.com. So be sure to check them out. Once again, thank you everybody for watching and listening. We are back. That wraps up episode 45. Episode 50 is around the corner. We cannot wait to get to it. I can't believe it. We're over the 6-month mark already. Tommy, you have yourself a good night, everybody.
You as well, man.
Peace out.